Hi, I'm Kristen from CommonPlaces, and I'm sitting here with Colby, our Director of Development.
Today, we're going to be talking about things that you need to know.
So thanks for joining us today. And Colby, thanks for coming here and talking
Absolutely.
about your website development experience. So what happens when a new customer comes to CommonPlaces? They've signed the contract, they're ready to go. What's the planning process like?
Right, so when a new client comes to CommonPlaces, they usually have some idea of what they want, and that's figured out during the sales process. Once a client comes to development, we know the basic minimum requirements of the project. This is used we work together with development, creative, and project management, and we try to come up with a more fleshed out idea of what the client really wants. And this gives us a chance to think internally before having a conversation with the client directly and really getting their ideas out on paper.
So when do you bring the client in to talk more? Because you're the web developer, you're not the salesperson. You're the developer, you know how to program what they want. When does the client come in, and when do you start talking to them directly?
Well, once we've gone through our internal planning, we've nailed down a lot of questions, a lot of requirements, a lot of functionality that either needs to be implemented or built out or designed. And that leaves an opportunity for us to ask the client all those questions that came up during our initial internal planning, or any of the questions that would allow the client to let their vision flow into paper. Maybe things that they didn't talk about during the sales call, but things that they really thought would be nice to have. And it allows us an opportunity to figure out if those are going to be possible or not, or what they're going to cost.
So once that conversation happens with the client, what's the next step? What do you bring back to the client after the initial discussion?
Right, so once we've had our internal discussions and we've spoken with the client directly, we've got a pretty good grasp on the scope of a project. And once we know the scope, we can determine the size of a project. And this size helps us determine what actually needs to become of planning. If we have a large client, they will typically have a lot more documentation that's derived from planning. And that could be in the form of use cases or data architecture specific to the technology for their project, or any other planning documentation that can be derived from that.
And so a smaller client wouldn't need all of that documentation.
Right. The idea is that the planning process is tailored specifically to the client's requirements and the scope of their project as a whole. Not every client's going to require the same amount of planning as the other.
Good point. So next time, we'll have Colby come back and answer questions about data architecture and use cases. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
Thanks a lot.